A major geopolitical shift is unfolding as China, Russia and Iran tighten their alliance in what could only be viewed as a direct challenge to the United States of America. Beijing is set to host a critical meeting on Friday, bringing together senior diplomats from Moscow and Tehran to discuss Iran's nuclear program. And this comes as ties between Iran and Russia have strengthened majorly since the Russia-Ukraine war began in 2022. A strategic cooperation treaty signed in January strengthened their partnership, while both the countries are on good terms with China as well.
China will hold the China-Russia-Iran-Beijing meeting on the Iranian nuclear issue on March 14th. Vice Foreign Minister Ma Zhaoshu will chair the meeting. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov and Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Garib Abadi will come to Beijing to attend. The three parties will exchange views on the Iranian nuclear issue and other issues of common concern.
Iran confirmed the meeting and said it would focus on development related to the nuclear issue and also the lifting of sanctions. Now, this high-level engagement between Iran, Russia and China, it coincides with a closed-door United Nations Security Council session scheduled in New York on Friday, and that too is regarding Iran's rapidly expanding uranium enrichment program. UN's watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, claims that Tehran is enriching uranium up to 60% purity, just shy of the 90% required for weapons-grade material. Now, Washington's withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal during U.S. President Donald Trump's first term reignited tensions. Since then, Iran has steadily distanced itself from previous commitments. And China, meanwhile, has openly backed Iran's right to safeguard its nuclear program, while also advocating for renewed diplomatic talks. Meanwhile, the military dimension of the Triumvirate is growing further. Russia, Iran and China have conducted extensive naval drills in the Gulf of Oman, a strategic waterway. Warships from all these three countries engaged in live-fire exercises, targeting simulated drone and boat attacks, along with counter-terrorism operations. Now, all these war games underscore a growing military partnership between China, Russia and Iran. It also marks the 5th consecutive year of trilateral exercises, reflecting a shared interest in countering Western influence in strategic maritime regions. Now, while China and Russia don't really operate in West Asian waters, their deployment is expanding as the region becomes increasingly militarized. Since November 2023, a month after the war in Gaza commenced, Yemen's Houthis have attacked ships linked to Israel in the Red Sea, claiming support for the Palestinians in Gaza. And a short-lived, temporary ceasefire last month put those attacks on hold. But the Houthis have threatened to resume strikes if Israel does not lift its blockade of Gaza. Meanwhile, the United States and other Western countries have also ramped up their naval deployment in the Red Sea, with a 10-nation force announced in December 2023 to counter Houthi attacks. The U.S. Navy also has a fleet based in Bahrain. So, as these geopolitical tensions escalate, diplomacy is also intensifying. Earlier this month, Trump said he sent a letter to Tehran with a proposal to revive nuclear negotiations. And last week, Trump made his stance clear that Iran has two choices. Number one, he said Iran should either strike a deal with Washington or else U.S. will handle things militarily. And Iran's leadership is rejecting any talks on Washington's terms. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, accused the U.S. of using negotiations as a tool for control and not diplomacy. And Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Tehran will not negotiate under threats or commands. Take a listen.
It's not acceptable for them to say, we're ordering you not to do this and not to do that, or we'll do this. If that's the case, I'm not coming to negotiate with you at all. Go and do whatever the damn thing you want. We don't want to fight with anyone, but we're not supposed to bow off in humiliation to anyone. Should they come forward with dignity, we will speak with dignity.
So the message from Tehran is clear. Iran is willing to engage with the world, but only on equal footing. With China and Russia in its corner, the balance of power is shifting clearly. The United States faces a unified challenge from Moscow, Beijing and Tehran at this point of time. All right, next up we tell you what is happening in China. The country's annual parliamentary session closed with the third-ranked leader of a ruling Communist Party absent, and that is due to a respiratory infection. This is for the first time in recent history. The chairman of China's top legislative body was absent in the key meeting known as the Two Sessions. We are talking about 68-year-old Zhao Leji, who was not among the senior party leaders in the Great Hall of the People on Tuesday. Besides chairing China's national parliament, Zhao heads its standing committee as well, which meets every 2 months to review drafts of new legislation and also approve personnel decisions. On Saturday, Zhao delivered an annual report on legislative work. At the second plenary session of the National People's Congress, also held in the Great Hall, he attended last Wednesday's opening session of Parliament and also met with the National People's Congress delegates.
Delegates, Chairman Zhao Leji is unable to attend this afternoon's session due to a respiratory infection and has requested leave. Entrusted by the Presidium of the Congress, I will preside over today's session.
The announcement was a departure from the Communist Party's secrecy regarding the health of senior leaders, while there's no official suggestion that Zhao's absence is caused by anything other than illness. But let's tell you what has happened in the past in China. China's former foreign minister Qin Gang missed a 2023 diplomatic summit in Indonesia. A foreign ministry spokesperson back then attributed his absence to unspecified health reasons. And Qin Gang was later ousted from his job after a mysterious 1-month absence from duties. A member of the Politburo Standing Committee has not missed a major NPC plenary session since 2006. The Communist Party almost never reveals details of the health of top leaders or perhaps addresses concerns about their age, making it very difficult for experts to track the internal dynamics in China. Our next story is from India. You must have heard about the alleged gold smuggling case involving South Indian actor Rania Rao. Now, in the latest, the Karnataka High Court passed an interim order directing the Revenue Intelligence or the DRI not to arrest her husband in connection with the case registered against Rao. This comes after Rao's husband moved the High Court alleging that he is repeatedly being called for interrogation and being harassed by the DRI. Just to refresh your memory first, here's what has happened so far. Last week, Kannada actor Rania Rao was arrested at Bengaluru airport for allegedly smuggling over 14 kilograms of gold into the country, which is reportedly valued at rupees 12.86 crores. Reports claim that she was carrying the gold in her belt and jacket, and that is just to evade inspection by the customs officials. That's not all. Rania Rao, the stepdaughter of a DGP rank officer in the state, has also been accused of using the airport exit route reserved for VVIPs. But it was not just Rao who faced the heat, but also her husband, Jatin Vijay Kumar Hukere, who got dragged into the case. Recently, in response, Hukere moved the High Court alleging that he is repeatedly being called for interrogation and being harassed by the DRI just because his wife is an accused in the gold smuggling case. Well, on Tuesday, the Karnataka High Court warned the DRI against summoning Hukere, whereas Hukere, the husband of Rania Rao, was asked to cooperate with the probe. Without following the due legal procedure, meanwhile, Rao claimed she had been denied her right to sleep while in police custody. This comes as she was arguing for bail in a special court dealing with economic offences. Meanwhile, images online showed her with swollen eyes and bruises on her face. And this has also triggered a political slugfest of sorts. Why is that? That's because the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, has alleged that the actor approached two ministers in the Siddaramaiah-led Congress government just to come out of trouble, to just wriggle out of trouble. And countering that, the Congress has alleged that under the Baswaraj Bommai-led BJP government, the Karnataka Industrial Area Board allotted land to Rania Rao in 2023 to set up a steel plant. And here's what a Congress MLA had to say.
It could be the central minister's hands, because when they are coming down from there, it is the responsibility. They have all the information from Dubai when she's coming from an international destination. It is not only in Karnataka. So if they are saying, alleging, they might be hinting at the central government, not the state government.
And this has further raised speculations regarding Rania Rao's alleged political links and her real motive in what is being called one of the biggest gold heists in recent times. This is, by the way, it has also put spotlight on gold smuggling and price differences between Dubai and India. Courtesy Rao's frequent trips to Dubai, 4 times in just 15 days, which has further raised suspicion regarding the nature of her activities. This has also renewed conversations around India's gold import duties and restrictions which are in place, and if all this is enough to curb illegal practices like smuggling. Our next story is about a medical marvel. An Australian man has survived 100 days with an artificial heart. A world-first success. Yes, you heard that right. That's what has happened. An Australian man with heart failure has become the first person in the world to walk out of a hospital with a total artificial heart implant. On Wednesday, Australian researchers and doctors behind the operation announced that the implant had been an unmitigated clinical success after the man lived with the device for more than 100 days before receiving a donor heart transplant in early March. The Bivoco total artificial heart was invented by Dr. Daniel Timms. This is the world's first implantable rotary blood pump. Capable of fully replacing a human heart, it uses magnetic technology to replicate the natural blood flow of a healthy heart. While the implant is still in the early stages of clinical study, it has been designed for patients with end-stage biventricular heart failure, a condition that often develops after heart attacks and reaches a point where it can no longer pump blood effectively. So this is big, because every year more than 23 million people worldwide suffer from heart failure, yet only 6,000 receive a donor heart. This is according to the Australian government, which has invested $50 million into this. The implant is intended as a sort of life-saving bridge to keep patients alive until a donor heart becomes available. But is Bivoco's long-term ambition to enable implant recipients to live without needing a heart transplant? Which brings us to the man at the center of this story, a man in his 40s from New South Wales, who was suffering from severe heart failure, and he volunteered to become the first recipient of the total artificial heart in Australia. He is the 6th recipient of a total artificial heart in the world. The first 5 implants took place last year in the US, with all patients receiving donor hearts before leaving hospital. And the longest time a patient had spent with a device before a transplant, it is 27 days. The Australian patient received the device on 22nd of November at St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney. In a 6-hour procedure, he became the first patient to go home with the implant and lived with it for over 100 days. That's before receiving a donor heart in March. Giants called it a privilege to be part of this historical medical breakthrough. But while experts have hailed this as a great step forward for artificial hearts, there are still challenges ahead. Professor David Colquhoun, a board member of the Heart Foundation, pointed out that while the device functioned for over 100 days, a donor heart can last more than 10 years. He also noted that advances in heart medications have reduced majorly the number of patients needing such implants, and still this is just the beginning. The biweco implant is part of a series of groundbreaking procedures which is being conducted under Monash University's Artificial Heart Frontiers program. The program aims to develop 3 key devices to treat the most common forms of heart failure, and to that we say a revolution in heart care could be closer than we can imagine.